Washington, D.C., and more importantly, how our office can help you all as business owners, nonprofit leaders, government entities, and so on. Now, I've only been with the Congressman, relatively speaking, for a short time. I am entering my 14th year with Congressman Schakowsky, but we have a number of people in our office that have been there for over 20 years. The Congresswoman is in her 25th year in Congress, and she's represented the 9th Congressional District the whole time. So we're very privileged to have Morton Grove in our district. And also, all of these people up here on the stage are compelling, intelligent, thoughtful leaders. And we are so lucky to have them representing us. So I'm just grateful for everyone to be here and to have the relationships with our office that we have. The Congressman is working hard every single day in Washington to try and make both 9th Congressional District and the nation better. And in recent years, we've had some very real successes. We've seen $11 billion driven to Illinois in terms of infrastructure funding. That accounts for something like $7 billion in roads and bridges, over $3 billion in public transit, and a host more focused just on transportation needs of our network that is falling apart. We also have over $1.3 billion dedicated to improving our water infrastructure here because of the administration. That includes almost $600 million dedicated solely for lead pipe replacement. Now in Illinois, we have the highest lead service line percentage of any country, of any state in the nation, and so it's a very real problem. In Des Plaines, I know that our lead service line replacement costs will be over $130 million just for our municipality, and that's repeated in municipalities across the state. So again, we have $576 million dedicated solely for this cause, in addition to particular steps that can be taken by individual congressional offices. Over $260 million is devoted to individuals who are looking for tax rebates for weatherizing their homes or updating their appliances to be more energy efficient. 2.4 million Medicare recipients save money with insulin cost limitations and out-of-pocket cost limits that would be about $2,000 a year. All told, these are some things that are happening that are meaningfully benefiting all of our lives. Now, most of these changes happened in the past Congress. The current Congress, the 118th, is on track to be one of the least productive in the history of the country. We're not going to see much happen between now and November when we have a very large election coming. But there are a couple of must-pass bills that I want to briefly talk about. Government funding runs out on September 30th, which means that we are going to have a funding bill that we're going to either fight about or kick down the road. And we don't know what that's going to look like yet. However, I encourage us all to watch closely because that funding bill will include money for your municipalities. I'm proud to announce the Congresswoman selected Morton Grove to receive $5 million directly in terms of lead service line replacement, thanks to the efforts of Asher Sheba and other elected officials. And thank you, Asher. And also, the Niles Township Weston Center will be receiving $1.25 million. And the village of Niles is earmarked for another $2.5 million to replace the bridge going over Howard Avenue. So these are just a couple examples of how we can directly benefit your municipality. We have to get that money through the process, but again, we will have that happen by the end of the year when the September 30th deadline looms. There's a couple of other must-pass pieces of legislation you should know about. The National Defense Authorization Act, which is the budget bill for our defense industry, so, the Army, the Marines, etc. That is something that passed the House last week, and it has to move through the Senate. This is an annual bill, it's very important. We also have flood insurance that will be expiring on September 30th, and we hope to have that extended. It's never been an issue before. And we have the Farm Bill, which is not a big issue here necessarily in Morton Grove, but it's something that expires on September 30th. So there are a couple of very important pieces of legislation that we are going to have to tackle. Beyond that, we don't expect much to happen just because we're coming up on the election. But I do want to highlight what it is our office can do for you. The Congresswoman is laser focused on providing meaningful casework services to her residents. So if you or anyone you know has an issue with a federal agency, whether it's getting your IRS tax return that hasn't shown up yet, if you're looking to travel and you realize that you did not renew your passport, if you have someone from out of the country who you're looking to come and visit and you need help with a visa, you can call our office and we are happy to help. If you're not getting your mail, this is something we have all the time, where if you're not getting regular mail delivery, it's a problem that's difficult to fix on a permanent basis, but if you contact us, we can reach out and try and have that addressed. If you, as a business or nonprofit, are looking for more specialized services, that's when you come to the Andrew department. So in my job, I handle all of her municipal outreach, I handle all of her nonprofit and business funding issues. So if you're looking to expand your business and you want to use the Small Business Administration to, seek a loan, a 7A loan or a micro loan, you can come to me. I'm happy to talk through what you qualify for, what you don't, what the best steps are to be competitive. If you're a nonprofit and you applied for a grant and you did not get it, you can come to me and I can pull in that federal agency and we can walk through your application and say, well, this is how this was scored, this was great, this was challenging, this is what you need to do better. So we are here to serve you. Again, we are the government office, we are not the campaign office, so we are taxpayer funded, and I have no work-life balance, so you are welcome. And again, the Congresswoman's been doing this for a long time, and her casework and her particular interest in helping individuals in the community has paid off. So don't hesitate, give me a call. I'm located just down the street over at Oakton and Skokie at 4500 Oakton. And I'll give you all my cell phone number if anyone's interested, because she gives it out to anyone anyway. It's 202-427-2176. Thanks very much, and have a great morning.
Thank you. Speaker is Senator Ronald Villalobos.
Sorry, why don't you have Senator Fine go?
Oh, what, Senator? All right. Senator Fine, you get to go first.
Good morning, everybody. I am very glad to be here on what is going to be a sunny, hot day, although the sun has not come out today. I want to thank Mark for putting this together because it's so important that we have these conversations. And one thing that I want to point out that makes our community so unique is everybody up on the stage, we work together so closely that if you were to call my office and I say, oh, it's a county issue, I'll direct you and give a call to Josina's office. If it's a congressional issue, we've got the bat line to get to Andrew at Jan Chakowski's office. If it is a township issue, we've got Bonnie on the phone. So we really work in partnership, which makes a very, very strong representation for our entire community, which is very special. The Illinois General Assembly had a very unique session this year, and I think you can say that just about every year. My colleagues are going to talk a little bit more about the budget, so I'm going to give you a little hint about what else went on besides the budget, because each year we passed about 500 bills. This year I think there were, about 4,000 bills introduced, something like that, a crazy number, and about 400 to 500 made it across the finish line, and now we'll see what the governor will sign. So in the General Assembly, I chair the Mental Health Committee and I am the Vice Chair of the Insurance Committee. And I feel like these two issues go hand in hand. And I'm also Chair of the Green Caucus. So the bills I'm going to talk about today focus on healthcare, mental health, and the environment. So first, let's start out with healthcare. Illinois in the past has been very I'm going to say non-consumer friendly when it comes to insurance and healthcare. When I first came into the General Assembly, it was my goal to sort of make it consumer first, and now I can say that we have finally reached that goal, that the consumer is front and center when it comes to healthcare in our state. Last year, I was able to pass a piece of legislation that provides for something called rate review for consumers who hold policies that they purchase in the state of Illinois. I know sometimes with people you talk about insurance, they glaze over. I get really excited about it, so it shows you my nerd level. But what we were finding was when the Affordable Care Act passed, every state was given the ability to do rate review. What that means is the insurance companies send their policies to the state of Illinois' Department of Insurance. The department actuarially reviews those policies, and that's where we would get stuck. Because our department could then say, we reviewed this policy, we think you're pricing it too high. And industry would say, okay, thank you. and sell it at that rate. But now we have rate review in the state of Illinois, and it goes into effect in 2026. And what that means is after the Department of Insurance reviews that rate, they're going to tell that department that it's too high or too low, and they can reject that rate, and the insurance industry has to come back. This is going to make sure that you're getting what you're paying for when you purchase your insurance. We took a number of more steps this year to make sure the consumer is protected. One of those major steps was something called step therapy. A few years ago, I passed a piece of legislation with step therapy, which is also known as fail first. So many of us have experienced that. You go to your doctor's office and the doctor says, well, this medication would really work great for you. However, you have to try and fail at these two medications before your insurance will cover that third medication. So we've been chipping away at that. This year, we finally knocked the tree down. And step therapy will no longer be allowed in the state of Illinois with state health care policies. So because of this, your doctor is going to decide what your best course of care is and not your insurance provider. We also banned something called short-term limited duration plans, or junk plans. What these plans are really, in my opinion, a lot of consumer fraud. Because when the Affordable Care Act passed, the Obama administration said, we're going to allow you to have these for up to 3 months as a bridge. People would purchase these plans, you could get one online, it was maybe $100 a month, only to find out that if you broke your leg over the weekend, sorry, your emergency room care was not covered over the weekend. It did not have to cover the 10 issues that the Affordable Care Act has to cover. It does not have to cover prescription medications. Under the Trump administration, they said, well, you don't have to have these just for 3 months. We're going to extend it to 364 days and then renewable. So what we were finding was consumers would purchase these plans thinking they had insurance and then go into debt, finding that it really did not cover anything. So in Illinois, we are banning the sale of this type of plan, and instead, because we are going to have our own state-based marketplace, you will be able to go to the marketplace and purchase an affordable plan, possibly with government subsidies, in order to bridge you to that next point that you need to go to. Another bill that we passed when it comes to insurance, this one was like a mind blower. And it came from a constituent who had jaw cancer and found out when he had to have jaw reconstruction, his insurance covered the reconstruction, but not his new teeth. And that was kind of crazy. So we closed this little loophole that they had there, and now it says if you're going to have your jaw reconstructed, insurance also has to cover your teeth replacement. Could you imagine? Anyways, you're going through enough and then that happens. So a little bit about what's going on with mental health in Illinois. We passed 988. Is anybody familiar with what 988 is? Okay. So 988, and we've got to get this out there, if you are having a mental health emergency, instead of calling 911, you call 988. So instead of getting a police response, the person who answers the phone is going to be a mental health care provider. And they are going to decide on the phone, do we need to send somebody out to you? Do we need to help you set up an appointment? Do we need to get you to a living room? How can we help you with your mental health care? The message we want to send across is mental health is not a crime. It is an illness. Just like diabetes, like heart disease. What can we do to make this easier for that person to get the care they need? So last year we passed the Mental Health 988 Task Force, and now in Illinois, not only do we have that number in place, but we have a 10-year plan of how are we going to get to where we want to be over the next 10 years. And it's an important process. It's a big change. We have to make sure that people know to dial 988. We also passed legislation that's going to expand mental health care on college campuses, because we know that when a student is in a mental health crisis, they need a place to go. And in Illinois, we're going to ensure that they do have that place on a college campus. We passed making sure state agencies can carry naloxone in their buildings, because we are finding that people are accidentally overdosing. And by having this naloxone present, we can make sure that that accident does not turn out to be deadly. Another bill we passed is an important bill for one of my constituents, and we're calling it Jordan's Law. This is a family in Evanston whose son was in rehab in Southern Illinois in a private facility, and their son passed away while he was at the facility, and the family was not contacted for weeks after their son's death. So we passed a law to ensure that that will not happen to any other family, and that those families will be reached out to and contacted. And I have to thank my colleagues, Ram, and I know we're going to have people here from the House. I know Liam's going to speak for Jennifer, because nobody can pass these alone. We need to do this as a group, and we need to make sure that we're listening to the voices in Illinois. A couple of quick bills I'm going to tell you about, and then I'm going to pass it on, because I'm probably at my 5 minutes, but I talk a lot, are my environmental bills that are so important. Ben Isabel from my office is, oh, he's in the back. So Ben had an idea that was a fabulous idea, and that was, you know when you go to a hotel and they have those little bottles of shampoo and conditioner? That creates billions of pounds of plastic pollution in our oceans, because it all ends up in the waterways. This bill was absolutely fascinating to work with, because we got business, environmentalists, you name it, everybody was on board, and we are no longer going to be able to have those little bottles in hotels. Instead, they're going to have, there's something on the wall where you can pump your shampoo. And it's going to save our environment from so much devastation. Another bill that we passed that really, business, environment, unions came together, is a bill that has to do with carbon capture, transport, and sequestration. This is a bill, I will tell you honestly, I was completely opposed to in the beginning, because carbon sequestration scares me. But as the chair of the Green Caucus, I sponsored this bill because it brought environmentalists to the table. And with this legislation, we have the strongest environmental protections we possibly can have of any other state. This is something that was going to come if we liked it or not. So at least we were at the table and we put those protections in place. One of the most important protections is we have a 2-year moratorium until the federal government rules are out, to make sure that not only do we have the federal standards in place, but the state standards on top of it. So our state standards make sure that any community that a pipeline is going through has the support and training they need in case, God forbid, there is an accident. It has the safety measures in place that make sure that constant testing and monitoring is going on, because we have to make sure that we are an environmentally friendly and safe state, and that our future for our children is protected. So with that, if you have any questions, I know there's going to be more time later on in the conversation, but I'm going to reintroduce Mark to introduce our next speaker. So thank you for coming.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'll try that one more time. Good morning.
Good morning.
There's second cups of coffee available. It's great to be with you all. I apologize for being late. My sister's AC broke last night, so her and her kids and my brother-in-law came over, so we had 4 kids this morning that were just running around peacefully, right? And then I was trying to find a parking spot. I wasn't sure I could park over there, and then I saw Asher's truck, and I was like, okay, I'm okay. Because I figured they're going to tow his truck before they tow my car. But it's great to be with you all, and I just want to thank you all for organizing this. People ask me what the biggest challenge is in the work that we do, and aside from being away from family, it's being able to connect with the community and provide all of the information that we need to provide about the work that we've done, right? We, as state senators, represent 217,000 people. and sometimes it's hard to get that information out to every single person. So these opportunities are very much appreciated. I'm going to go straight into the budget, and would love to leave more time for Q&A, and I know we have other speakers. We have our sixth consecutive balanced budget that we passed and signed as being covered. It's quite a turnaround. We always say, I always say, you don't have to take our word for it. The last 5 balanced budgets have led to 9 credit rating upgrades, and so it's safe to say that we are on the path of fiscal responsibility and strategic investment. But the trick obviously is vigilance and persistence, and that's something that we're all committed to. We also have a record $2.3 billion in the rainy day fund. I always smile a little bit because there is no lobby for the rainy day fund. No one is contacting our office saying, put more money in the rainy day fund. But it is very important because it goes back to the earlier point I just made, which is the bond houses care about the rainy day fund, and continuing the growth of that is going to continue our stability. So I want to talk about the investments we're making. First, we have created the first of its kind in the state of Illinois, Department of Early Childhood Education. The research data, everything has shown the difference that's made between birth and 5 is tantamount to the future of every youth. And so being intentional, right before it was early childhood education was part of the Illinois Department of Human Services and other departments. Now we're saying, look, this is something that we're going to dedicate to a specific department. We allocated $14 million to create that new agency. We put an additional $75 million towards the Illinois State Board of Education Early Childhood Block Grant, putting into place possible 5,000 more slots in preschool deserts. And so we're hoping we're hoping to achieve the goal of 20,000 new preschool slots by 2027 as we move forward. And so that's early childhood education, birth to 5. K through 12 education is another major investment that we made. This is the 6th year in a row that we've made an additional $350 million state investment to K through 12 education. Why is that important? Well, in 2017, there was an acknowledgement before I got there, Senator Fine was there, there was an acknowledgement that the state is not pumping in, it's doing its part, pumping in its part to fund public education. So where does it have to come from? If it doesn't come from the state or the feds, it has to come from local property taxes. So that is a challenge that we wanted to address, and that is another challenge is the fact that it was being funded, when we funded off of property taxes, it's based off the property values and so forth, and that leads to inequitable funding. So this year we reached $2 billion in additional state funding for public K-12 public education after the last 6 years. And we continue to, at this rate, we're going to both see education funding in areas that traditionally did not get their fair share, and we're going to see eventually the ability for locals to reduce property taxes, eventually. I say that very importantly because we're still modeling that out and so forth. But the important point is we were 45th in state funding of education in 2017, and now we are in the teens. And so, again, we're trying to do our part to the state. We're also trying to make sure we're addressing the workforce shortage. We have $10.3 million increase for career and technical education programs, a $45 million teacher vacancy grant pilot program. Just grant recipients across 170 school districts have hired more than 5,300 teachers, created 166 pathway programs to prepare new teachers, and established retention initiatives focused on more 10,000 current teachers. And that was with the $45 million that we did last year. Let me tell you something. My job is hard. I don't want to be a teacher. So the fact that we're able to invest and create opportunities for recruitment, retention, and just make their jobs a little easier. Think about all the things that they've had to do in the last 4 years. You know, they were the nurse, they were the social worker, they were everything, right? And so working to make sure that we're making it a little easier, I think is more than appropriate. Higher education, a 2% increase to all of our state universities. We increased the MAP funding by $10 million, allowing for scholarships for youth that have gotten in and need some financial assistance. And so we're continuing our investments in higher education. Why am I focusing on education? Well, it's I believe the key to everything, right? Making sure that we're starting our youth off right from birth to 5, making sure that we're continuing that K through 12, and then with higher ed, producing a workforce, right, that our businesses need, and hopefully, you know, people getting, you know, married here and getting a job here and staying here in the state of Illinois. Violence prevention and public safety, always an issue that is top of mind, and it comes from many different forms, right? The everyday gun violence that we hear about on the news, to the mass shootings that took place in Aurora in 2019 and Highland Park more recently. So we're trying our best to answer the call across the spectrum on public safety. And so some of those items include, the budget includes funding to hire and train 200 more new state troopers, which was about, and then includes another $30 million for camera grants. The state troopers are incredibly important because a lot of people may not know this, the Illinois State Police is responsible for a lot, not just our roads. For example, we have 2.5 million FOID card holders in the state of Illinois. A FOID card allows you to possess a firearm. That's 1 out of every 5 people, right? And 2.499 of them are responsible individuals. The last folks may not, and at the end of the day, the Illinois State Police has to sift through and do background checks on all 2.5 million folks to make sure that, you know, we're doing our best to avoid any tragedies. And so, again, that's a tough task, and they need more folks. This budget also allocates $200 million to the Restore, Reinvest, and Renew program to provide flexibility with the disbursement of additional grants. This one's a big one. $200 million to enhance after-school programs and summer youth programs. We're in that summer season, right? And so we're all starting to hear what are you going to do for the summer for our youth? And we all know that if they just sit at home or don't have a plan, you know, that could be challenging, right? And so providing funding to ensure that there's after-school programs during the year, to ensure that there's summer youth programs is incredibly important. We increased on the human service front. We did 2 increases for workers. One for those that take care of people with developmental disabilities. We increased their wages by $1, and $1 for those that provide home care for our seniors. Why is that important? Well, those that take care of our folks with developmental disabilities, first of all, it's God's work. Second, they treat those folks like their family, and that's something that any one of us were in that situation, we would want that, right? And thirdly, I would say the challenge, right, is as the wages go up across the board, you know, some people tend to take the easier job, right? And in the service industry, and not to say that's even that easy, but we want to make sure that we're continuing the robust workforce that takes care of these folks, because that's, you know, the right thing to do, and is sorely needed. The community care program increase for $1. That's important because every person that is able to stay in their home and live independently and not go into an institution like a nursing home or assisted living facility saves the state on average $40,000 a year. And so it's about $15,000 to the state if you stay in your home and you're on Medicaid versus $52,000 in a nursing home. Some people need to be in a nursing home. They need 24/7 care. Others may need 12 hours of care, you know, or 10 hours. And so making sure that robust workforce is in place is incredibly important. I will end there because I want to take time for questions, but I want to flag something as we move forward. I'm chair of the Senate Transportation Committee. I've said this to you all at different events. We are facing, and we're not the only one, every major public transit agency in the nation is facing a fiscal cliff. And so our fiscal cliff for RTA, CTA, Metro, and PACE is coming up in early 2026, which means we have to deal with it a year prior to that, to make sure that we have enough space and time. And so this is going to be a major focal point of mine and of the state. It was brought up, as people wanted to spend more of our in our budget. It was brought up multiple times in our caucuses to say, don't forget the mass transit fiscal cliff that we have, and it's approximately anywhere between $730 million to $1.5 billion investment we're talking about. But we know that it's important. We know it's economically strategic. Our frontline workers, our essential workers rely on public transit to get to work, and so we need to deal with it, and I'm looking forward to that. In terms of some of the grants, Ralph for another couple of weeks could provide a list of some of the things that we're able to do, and with partnership, and let's just give it up to the Village of Morton Grove board. I think when we get into office, we say keep asking, and they have kept asking. So we're proud to try to deliver the call or answer the call on capital grants and other grants as well, OSLED grants and so forth. So thank you again for putting this on, and happy to answer questions. Thank you.
So keep your questions in mind. So our next speaker today would be our County Commissioner, Josina Morita.
Good morning. I think this is my first time here, so I get an opportunity to also introduce myself. As your newer Cook County Commissioner, I've been in office for a little bit over a year. I've replaced Commissioner Larry Sufferton, who many of you knew, who retired after over 25 years of public service. So it's an honor to be here. Mark and I have met a number of times. I'll say as a new commissioner, my primary job is to learn and then go find the money. Every year since I've come in, we've sat down with the mayor and Ralph. We do a roundtable with all of our mayors and managers just to hear what are your plans, what are your dreams, what are your priorities, and how can we help? And so that has been my job over the last year, is to figure out how can we help, whether it's small pots of money for the bike path on Oakton, to prioritize the new metro development, to help with the Gunster Pulse line. It's just been figuring out how do we help you all achieve what you're trying to achieve. How are we helping small business owners with our source grants? And so it's been a pleasure to work with you all over the last year and a half, and to be able to be here and report on a little bit of progress, but also some things that we're working on. So I'll start with the committees that I chair, which are Environment and Veterans. So Environment, one of the things that Cook County Board does that many people don't know is that we also run the forest preserves. And as you all know, as Morton Grove residents, it's a key part of your community. The forest preserves are 20% of Morton Grove land. And so first of all, thank you for being such a great partner and being a community that really loves and embraces the forest preserves in a way that we're starting to see the next generation do so, right? We passed the referendum in November of year 2022, to increase funding for the forest preserves. It's historic. It really is. I tell people, I don't know if there's anything people hate more than their property taxes, but they love the forest preserves more than they hate their property taxes. And that is significant, and that's due to a lot of the work that you all as Morton Grove Village has shown what a great asset it is, not just an environmental asset, but an economic development asset. I want to give a shout out to John Thill, who has been a lifelong forest preserve steward in the neighborhoods, and has really been a leader in helping educate the next generation on why it's so important. And so that funding is going to restore our forest preserve, do restoration work, to actually acquire land. I say that this is our generation's Burnham plan. I think we are the only metro area in the world that is expanding, not just green space, but natural space. And so we're really excited to continue to partner with Morton Grove as such a key municipality in terms of forest preserves. And so a lot of what we do, it intersects with the forest preserves. So whether it's transportation, trying to increase public transportation to the forest preserves, mental health, Laura and I host Nurtured by Nature in October. It'll be October 6th this year, which is connecting forest preserves to mental health, right? Studies show that taking a walk in the forest preserves has exponential benefits than taking a walk in your neighborhood. It's free, it's safe, it's open, it's inclusive, and so we've done a lot of work to try to get more people out to the forest preserves. Again, not just for the environmental benefits, the economic development benefits, the mental health benefits. For Ram and I as young parents, just like quiet time with our kids that's unplugged. And so it's been great to be able to do that work around the forest preserves. I'm starting with my committee. So veterans. Larry Sufferton was the last veteran to serve on the Cook County Board, and so it was an important personal commitment that I made to him to continue that work. And in my first year as vice chair of veterans, we quadrupled the veterans budget. I say that it's a little clever math. It was so bad and so small that quadrupling that from going $500,000 to $2 million. But that's, as you all, many of you all know, the way that we treat our veterans is still pretty abysmal. I have learned a lot just listening to veterans across the district. So to hear that we were spending $500,000 in a county of 5 million people to serve our veterans, we only had one veterans assistance officer for the entire area of Cook County to help people with their benefits. That's crucial for veterans to give them the dignified respect that they deserve and the services they deserve. It's also millions of dollars in federal funds that we are entitled to here in Cook County that then we don't have to spend as Cook County and state government and local government because they're getting the benefits that they deserve. We are also, again, speaking about how bad it was, working on moving the Veterans Assistance Center from the basement of the Juvenile Detention Center, that's where it's been, to a downtown location that is one more dignified and respectable, but also more accessible for public transportation and people across the county. We're working on expanding to satellite offices in the suburban areas. And so that's just crucial work that we're doing with our veterans. If anybody's interested in partnering in that work, we're also trying to get into the schools and talk more about sharing those stories. We talk about the generational gap that, a lot of us talk about our grandparents served, but what is this generation thinking about and doing? So then I'll move to transportation. So I mentioned that we finished the bike path, thanks to Ralph and Tammy and the whole team. And that's part of a much broader plan along Oakton, not just in Morton Grove, but all the way east to the lake, right? If those of you who drive down Oakton, it's nice in Morton Grove, and then you hit Skokie. And then my kids call it the roller coaster. So we're working on Oakton, a comprehensive plan for Oakton, both for cars and bikes. Also Crawford and Skokie, but I know a lot of you drive along Crawford, or those are like two main, and also Old Orchard, we're doing the overpass. So we're doing that. We're also focusing on connectivity. We just did our first comprehensive bike plan for the entire Cook County. So we're trying to prioritize that as part of transportation. And then, of course, the metro development that we're all very excited about, figuring out, again, not just transportation dollars, but economic dollars, environmental dollars, whatever I can find and throw at the metro development. They know part of my vision is also to establish a nature center at somewhere in that vicinity in Morton Grove. Again, you're a municipality that's 20% forest preserve. The closest nature center is 25 minutes away. We have 0 nature centers that are public transportation accessible along the metro, and so it'd be a great location. As you know, Morton Grove is really well positioned between the city and the suburbs as an entry point. So those are some things. And then the Dempster Pulse Line. How many of you have been on the Dempster Pulse Line? You guys have seen these purple buses. It's really cool. So these buses are commuter buses that now are timed on the lights. You see that the lights change for them so they don't stop. They're at maybe every 3 or 4 stops. But they're available all along Dempster from Evanston all the way to O'Hare. You can get from Morton Grove for $2 with heated sidewalks, Wi-Fi on the bus, You can get from Morton Grove to O'Hare Airport. You don't have to deal with parking. You don't have to deal with Uber and traffic because you got the time lights. You'll actually make it faster on the dumpster pulse in 40 minutes. From Morton Grove, $2, runs every 15 minutes. Heated sidewalks, Wi-Fi, new buses, awesome. So that was a huge project, and again, thank you to Morton Grove for your participation. Doing the time lights was a new thing for a lot of these municipalities, and so doing that and making that possible, hopefully we're reducing carbon emissions, we're reducing traffic. It's a great asset. So that's transportation. Just a few grant opportunities, economic development. I think we did have a lot of source grant recipients of the small business grants across the district. We are having an arts and culture grant that's coming out that is very unusual for the county. It's not something that we normally do, but it's something that we prioritize with our ARPA funds. So if you know folks who do art as their profession, we're gonna have grants that are coming out between now and the end of the year. So that's exciting. And then ending on everybody's favorite topic, again, which is property taxes. Clearly the system is broken. It's not been getting better. We have helped over 400 people with appeals just in our year and a half in office. We will continue to do that when Niles Township opens. One new piece that I have learned about and been working with our legislators on, we're calling a hearing in the next month. For those of you, and I know we have a number in Morton Grove of mixed-use commercial buildings. Previously, what were called 318s paid a 10% tax rate. That factored into their math when they put their life savings into their small business. The assessor has changed their policy, and now you are paying, at least on the commercial portion of your property, 25%. That is a massive increase with no notice and no explanation. So we're holding a public hearing July 24th in Legislation Committee, and we are in the process of trying to walk that back. We did not know about it. So particularly if you have any small business owners in the area that have mixed-use buildings, we want to hear from you directly. We want you to come to the hearing and testify, because this is people's livelihoods. If they get hit, they close down, they're not coming back. And we know how hard people work to start their businesses. We know how hard we work to bring them to Morton Grove. And so we don't want to end that way. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let me know. I'll end on a high note, I guess, because that was we are also working with the Secretary of State's office to bring in a DMV to Evanston. So that would be the closest that we would have in this region. We're in conversations with the Auto Barn in Evanston, which is right on the border at McCormick. And so that would be a huge win for, I think, the entire region to be able to have that. So that's our slight high note to end on after property taxes. But again, it's been a pleasure to work with you all. I've just been a year and a half in, and I look forward to working with everybody.
I'd like to introduce County Commissioner Maggie Trevor. We can put you right on stage.
Good morning. My name is Maggie Trevor. I am the 9th District County Commissioner. My district covers a large part of the northwest suburbs and the near west suburbs, as well as the northwest side of Chicago. It starts in Palatine, curves around O'Hare, and ends up in River Forest. I have a small part of Niles, probably, or probably not as much as my colleague, Commissioner Morita. Commissioner Morita and I started at approximately the same time in the 2022 elections. I came here mostly to answer, to hopefully hear what you have to say to me. But just a couple of things about what I have been working on. A couple of the major issues that I'm trying to tackle are ones that are in common throughout my district, number one of which is transportation. I find that to be the biggest issue in completely different forms throughout the district. For instance, in the farther northwest suburban part of my district, there is a dramatic lack of transportation, public transportation outside of Metro. There are several 100,000 people in my district that currently aren't being served by regular bus service. In the western part of my district, it's aging infrastructure. So one of the things that I've been trying to work on is getting funding to reconfigure a couple of intersections along Harlem Avenue, one of which was approved last week. And also helping some of those communities secure funding to rebuild things like railway crossings that kind of grind, first of all, are dangerous, and second, grind traffic to a halt. The environment is a huge issue of mine. I have a background, I've served with the city of Rolling Meadows for the better part of a decade under environmental committee, working on sustainability plans, on restoration of natural areas, and also working to build up infrastructure for bicycles and pedestrians and car transportation. But again, I'm here to learn. I'm here to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll do questions after all the presentations. So we have our, now it's time for our state reps. So Mike, would you want to go now, or would you want Liam to speak for Jennifer first? You need a moment.
Yeah, give me a moment.
All right, Liam, you're up for Jennifer.
Morning, everyone. I will be pretty brief. It's nice going after Senator Vine and Senator Bill because they can tell you a bunch of stuff, and I can just focus on what Jen worked on this year. Representative is sorry she couldn't make it. She's taking a well-deserved family vacation after session, so I'm happy to fill you in on a couple of things she worked on. I also want to start by thanking the Morton Grove Fire Department and Police Department. I recently graduated from your Citizens Police and Fire Academy, which was really great. I highly recommend applying to join their next class. I think it starts in the spring. From that, I spoke with Ben from Senator Fine's office, and we actually were able to work with Senator Fine to get $500,000 in this year's state budget towards NIPSTA, which is the training facility up in Glenview that our police environment. A couple of things the rep has been working on. She chairs Judiciary Civil, which is the civil law committee. I'm not an attorney, so a lot of it goes over my head, but a lot of important work goes in there. Recently, she's been focusing a lot on AI, which everyone is familiar with. It's in the news a lot. A couple of bills she did in this space was one with the Attorney General, which enables the Attorney General of Illinois State Police to combat deepfake images of children's sexual assault images. Currently, there's no recourse for state officials to challenge that. There is federally. I know there's recently a case in Wisconsin about that, but now the state of Illinois also is able to combat that type of material. Additionally, she passed a bill working on the rights of publicity, which is a bill and a law I wasn't familiar with, which protects people's commercial likeness being used without their consent. So if you think of, in the 80s, there was the famous Bette Midler Ford Motor case where they hired someone that sounded like her to sing a song in the commercial, but got around paying her by doing that. So in Illinois, we do have protections for that, so we just updated it to include using AI to generate someone's voice or image endorsing a product that they never agreed to endorse. With that, I'll also mention, as Senator Fine said, every year we work on constituent bills, so ideas you guys bring to us, like Jordan's Law. So I'd be really interested to hear from business community members on, is AI impacting you? We're looking at education, insurance, healthcare. Reach out to our office, let us know how it's impacting you to see if we can do a better job regulating it and protecting everyone. And with that, I will let Rep.
Thank you, Liam, and we have Representative Mike Kelly.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to join you today. And I apologize for my lateness. I'm usually pretty prompt, but we had a mix-up with schedule today, so I apologize. I met many of you before, but as you said, my name is Mike Kelly. I'm the 15th District Representative, and I've been in this since 2021. The 2024 session recently concluded, and I'm happy to report that we've passed yet another balanced budget. Want to make smart investments and steps to cut costs for families, keep communities safe, and build a strong future. Working line by line through the budget, we found some efficiencies that have allowed us to cut the cost of government so we can invest resources in communities and families' values. Some of the headlines of this budget include a $50 million child tax credit. They eliminated the state grocery tax, but really we just reconfigured it so the state or the local municipality can handle that. One of the big things that Dan DeMaria called me about was making sure that we were able to waive the fee Currently, it was free to collect that tax, and then it went back to the municipality to distribute, or to collect and to use as they saw fit. Doing it this way, it was gonna have a 1.5% tax, so we made sure that we talked to IML and made sure that all the stakeholders knew that that was an important part of the process, and we were able to get that taken care of. We're making investments to clear up $1 billion in medical debt for families across Illinois. We've devoted $350 million to public schools through the EBF formula. We're investing in emerging technologies like quantum computing and creating research credits to attract innovation. We're helping small businesses by eliminating the swipe fees that make it more expensive to accept credit cards and capping the state's franchise tax. We're helping the police departments recruit, retain officers, along with funding new cadet classes and deploying 200 new state troopers. Those are just some of the budget items that myself and my colleagues, came up with this year, and we're not close to keep helping keep Illinois moving forward. A couple of the other things I'd like to address. Another thing that Mayor DeMaria stresses to me every year is the increase in the LGDF, the local distributor fund. We weren't able to get that this year. We will continue to push for that. I will continue to push for that. I know many of my colleagues do the same. It's going to stay at the 6.47% that it is. Historically, it was at 10, and we're trying to incrementally increase that, and I will continue to fight for that. There's been some talk about the budget process with concerns being raised about transparency. That was a big part of it. Towards the end of session, especially in the House, we were fighting for a little bit more transparency on how the budget came together. We did get commitments from both the Speaker and the President that we will have a little more collaborative effort on that and a little more transparency. So that will be starting in July, and hopefully that's how that process will play out. The entire budget is available online for public review at ilga.gov. It's Public Act 103-0589. Our legislation is also available online there. Under each of our names, you can look at the bills that we've sponsored, the bills that we've run ourselves. It's all available there. And one of the bills that I did help pass this year was House Bill 5288. This is a program for the 100 Club. It's a license plate. That goes for mental health services and for helping out police and fire line of death duties, helping those families continue forward in their time of need. So that's about it for me. And thank you for
And we still have a couple of levels of government. We have our townships. We have both Maine and Niles. So our next speaker will be the Maine Township Supervisor, Karen Diamond.
Thank you all very much. I'm very pleased to be here, and I appreciate the invitation, Mayor. As you probably know, Morton Grove is divided into two townships, and Harlem Avenue is the dividing line. If you happen to live east of Harlem Avenue, you are in Niles Township, and I was your supervisor. She'll talk to you just a little bit. But if you live west of Harlem Avenue, you are in Maine Township, and I'm pleased and honored to be your supervisor. You know, I always feel that when I start talking about townships, sometimes there's some people out there who are quietly thinking, what is a township and what do they do? So I'll just take a minute to say that, you know, townships are one of the oldest forms of governments in the Midwest. They were created in the 1850s. They've been around for about 175 years. I imagine that early on townships were primarily concerned with clearing rural roads, but things have really changed since then. In our township, we still perform that type of work. We have about 30,000 people who live in an unincorporated area, so we are their main form of local government, and we still do take care of their roads and streets. But like most urban townships, we've really morphed into a government body that primarily provides social services, and that's what we do. And so I want you all to know about those services in case they can benefit you, or if you know someone else who can benefit from the services that we do provide. For instance, as required by statute, we provide general assistance. We also maintain a food pantry. We provide youth services and senior services. We have a great senior department, and as I now qualify as a senior myself, I get to go on some of their trips and some of the programs that they offer, which are really fabulous. We also provide therapy, low-cost or no-cost therapy to the residents of Maine Township. And we've been very pleased to expand those services to some of the schools within our township. Sometimes it's hard for students to get to therapy. It's hard for their parents to get them to the therapy. So I'm glad that we've been able to do that. Other miscellaneous services that we provide are passports, license stickers, fishing licenses, all types of things that you might need. You can often find at your local township office. And of course, when we've been talking about passport, or rather property taxes today, that's something that I think about too, because we have an assessor's office, and our assessor's office is there to help you appeal your assessment. If you believe that your property taxes are too high or your assessment is too high, they can help you with that and can also ensure that you're getting all the exemptions that you deserve, so that you're not paying any more in property taxes than you need to pay. Some of the things that we'd like to concentrate on in Main Township is making sure that you can recycle materials. We have a paper shredding day, we just had that last Saturday. We have electronics recycling on other days. And then we also have dumpster days. There are some things that you just can't recycle. So we enable our residents to get rid of some of the things in their household that they otherwise don't know what to do with. We also have some special events coming up. At the end of July, we'll have a health fair, July 27th, and it's a Saturday. So keep your eyes open for that. You'll hear more details about that. We're still lining up vendors. And we too are concerned about public transportation. As the Commissioner mentioned, we do have the PACE bus, the Pulse bus going through Main Township on Dempster. It also goes through on Milwaukee Avenue. So that's good, but I'm still working with PACE Township to improve transportation in our township. I'm talking to them about renting a bus for our own township use. And I've also talked to them about expanding the Niles free bus service. So again, if you haven't come by the Main Township office, please do so. We have a lovely building. It's on Ballard Road, and come and visit anytime. I think you'll find that there are some programs and services that we provide that you may find very useful. So, with that, I'm going to say one more minute while our next speaker is coming down. And that is, we have some grants which are helping us to do some great things too. We are improving bike transportation in our township, and we recently got a grant to include a bike path along Church Street. So I'm looking forward to that, and also a grant that we received. We're working with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District so that we can improve flood prevention. So those are some of the things we're working on in Main Township. And I see perhaps our next speaker who's just come in, Jan Schakowsky. So I'm going to, I'll leave it up to our coordinator.
Thank you, Jan. I want to take this opportunity. She doesn't necessarily need to speak right now, but I would like to introduce our Congresswoman, Jan Schakowsky. Please stand up. And we'll let you have a chance to chat later, it's okay. And by the way, he did a great job for you in the beginning. So we still have one of our offices. We have Niles Township Supervisor, Bonnie Khan Agnesati.
I'm clapping for all of you for making it this far. Thank you. Good morning. I want to absolutely recognize a superstar that just came into this room, U.S. Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, and take the moment to thank Jan and Jan's office for helping our daytime homeless respite center with a $1.2 million grant opportunity. So I am your Niles Township Supervisor. As Karen pointed out, that's east of Harlem. I'm not going to repeat many of the things that she said. Karen did a wonderful job outlining what township government does and what our services are. I do want to highlight a couple of things that I think are worthy of mention. One, as I referred to in my gratitude for our U.S. Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, we do operate a daytime homeless shelter we call it the Niles Township Respite Center. It is the only homeless shelter, day or night, in all of Niles Township. I think that that's really important to mention in this room because that actually, thanks to State Senator Laura Fine, that respite center is operated by social workers and a mental health professional and a housing specialist paid for by a grant from the state that we were fortunate enough to get through the senator's office. And those folks are giving excellent care to a very vulnerable population so that you don't have to. They are trained to do that work. Employees of your companies probably are not. And we want you to know that if you come across somebody who needs that kind of specialized help, you can contact your township, and we are there to offer assistance for folks who are really at their most vulnerable. Additionally, we are working with job seekers. We offer, as does Main Township, we offer a number of financial aid programs for folks who are seeking jobs. Many of those people are refugees that were certified skilled laborers in their countries of origin, and are now here desperately looking for work and trying to fold themselves into the communities that we live in, including Morton Grove. So as you are looking for folks to employ, please think of your township government and reach out to us. Our social workers know what the skills are, they know people intimately, and they can help place your neighbors that are out of work looking for jobs into skilled employment. And additionally, I'm not sure if Maine does this, but Niles will also pay for simple certification and recertification programs so that the folks that we're serving are going to be successful in the jobs that you're offering them right off the bat. That's really all that I'm going to tell you about, except at this moment. Is it all right?
No, Jay, but just hang up at the podium there. Our mayor, Danny Marie, unfortunately had lost the family, a death in the family, so we wish him and his family the sympathies on the passing of his brother-in-law, so that's why he wouldn't be able to with us tonight. Is there anybody from the village board who would like to just say hello and make a quick presentation? I'd like to introduce trustee Jimmy Whitman.
Here together. It's lovely to see people from businesses, the Dakota Institute of Servant Leadership, Oakton Community College, the library where my kids have grown up, and I'm so happy to be here. I get to renew my library card. But I did want to say on behalf of Dan, I'm sure he would have loved to have been here and also heard the inspirational updates from our state and federal legislators, and we really appreciate everyone being here. So thank you very much.
We'd like to also bring back Bonnie to our stage, and Ram. There's a special presentation that they would like to make today, so I will turn the floor back over to our esteemed state senator and supervisor from Niles Township.
Hi again. At this moment, we want to introduce the man of the hour, beloved Ralph Zirinsky, the village manager.
Great to hear all this great stuff.
So at our last township board meeting, we passed a proclamation that I would like to read to Ralph Zirinsky. We all know that Ralph is retiring in a couple of weeks. You are so deeply respected and honored. I know I'm going to get teary-eyed in this community and beyond this village, really. And you'll hear some of that in this proclamation. Okay, I'll pull myself together. All right. It's a lot of, if you've ever heard a proclamation, they're kind of ridiculous, but whereas the Niles Township board members are pleased to congratulate Ralph Zirinsky on the occasion of his retirement after 9 years of service as the administrator of the village of Morton Grove. And whereas Mr. Zirinsky has worked in public service for over 50 years, beginning at 16 years old, while working at the Niles Public Works Department, where he progressed to become an engineering technician. And whereas he later transitioned to work as a firefighter in Morton Grove, where he served his community for 15 years and eventually became the fire chief in 1990. And whereas he also served as the fire chief for the city of Skokie for 15 years before returning back to the village of Morton Grove and serving as their administrator. And whereas he has served as the administrator of the village for the last 9 years with ambition to continue providing a vibrant community for all to live in, and whereas some of his most notable achievements serving as the administrator were the opening of the Sawmill Shopping Center and attracting Moretti's Ristorante and Pizzeria to open within the village, and whereas he collaborated with Niles Township government to ensure that those in need of food assistance were helped during the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas Mr. Zirinsky is valued by his community and colleagues for all of his achievements as someone who was always a team player and a leader, and proclaimed by the board of Niles Township government that we congratulate Ralph Zirinsky on his retirement, and be it further proclaimed that a suitable copy of this resolution be presented on this day to Ralph Zirinsky as a symbol of our esteemed.
What do you say? Wait a minute.
We want to hear from you, but I just want to say, on behalf of, this is a proclamation from the Illinois General Assembly, recognizing your work and your career. I personally thought this was the meeting where it was an intervention that he had to do another 50 years. I was outvoted, but it largely acknowledges your accomplishments over the last 50 years. What job haven't you done is another question I have, but it's an honor for us to have worked with you. It's an honor for us to recognize you today. This is from Senator Fine, Representative Rumbush, Representative Kelly, and myself, and it was read into the Illinois General Assembly. So thank you. Thank you.
And then we'll pick up the commissioner for two reading.
Us too. I actually thought we were doing this tomorrow at his party. But again, thank you, Ralph, for your service again, not just to Morton Grove, but to so many parts of my district, in Niles and Skokie, along with Morton Grove. We are all better for the work that you have done, and we want to thank you. So on behalf of myself and Commissioner Trevor and President Michael, we passed this resolution unanimously last week.
Thank you very much. Now, what do I say? I say thank you. A 16-year-old kid walks into a public works facility, says, hey, that's a cool job. But the whole thing comes back to enjoying the mission. Things have changed. In 50 years, everything was done in paper and pencil. I was pushing drafting board around, and today they do it by CAD. But the whole thing comes back to, however you're doing your job, it comes back to the mission that you're serving the people. And I really enjoy that. I want to do another 50 years, because I've never come to work and not enjoy what I've done. I know I've been a boomerang here in Morton Grove. Was there for a while, went to Skokie, learned a lot, came back here, really enjoyed everything that's happened. I hate to be emotional about this because it's really a practical job. And I appreciate the partnerships that we've had with all of you, because without the dreams of our board, the vision of our strategic plan, the push of our residents, and then asking them for money, and them coming through with the money. Sometimes you hang up the phone and you go, was that worth it? I guess it was. And then the mayor, unfortunately, he's not here, but he is an extreme driving force, along with the board, to put direction for the community. Everybody that I've worked with, worked for, have been positive to the village and to the residents. People think, oh, my taxes is horrible, this is bad, government's doing this. You know, I can tell you that every day I've worked in municipal government, people have worked toward the satisfaction of the mission. And I'm leaving the village, I think, in good stead. We've got great staff, we have a good board, we have cooperative residents, and we got a fabulous community. And I appreciate you for the comments, and I also appreciate my family. They have, they're not here today, so you can whisper to them sometime. But my kids have put up with me being, oh, Dad's not here, whatever. But it's time to spend time with my 8 grandchildren and my 4 children. But I might be back. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate it. And this was, what's happening? I was thinking everybody was congratulating them on how they support the village, and you turn the tables on. That's rare. Usually I'm thinking 2 missions ahead, okay? So thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Oh my goodness.
We can have all the elected officials kind of get with Ralph in the center there. We have a good shot.
Can you move this? Move it or come in straight to the front?
Thank you.
And you want us to place this on you? Or is all of it? Closer? This way? We can do this. That way.
It's like school, call people like that.
Everybody look right here, please.
Should we do one with the resolution?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Right here, please.
If you don't mind, just want to keep your secret from Ralph and everybody.
I will see you there, right? Yeah, well, thank you very much.
All right, if everybody just want to have a seat, then we'll have some questions and answers. And then there's a little bit of coffee and sweet rolls after. Jan, would you like to stay on the stage, take a question, or come down, or whatever's best for you? Oh, yeah, that's right. Whatever's fine.
What the heck?
I am so moved by what Ralph said. You know, it's about the mission, he said. I wish some of my colleagues in Washington, D.C., the House of Representatives, would have that same ethic, that it's a privilege to do this job, and it's an opportunity to really make life better for people. Ralph? Where'd he go? And I was moved by the depth of your feeling, and I am so happy to be with so many of my friends, my colleagues in local government and state government. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where things really happen. And the idea that the job is to just help people and get things done and make the trains run and make, you know, it's just so fantastic. I'm happy to be here with Andrew Gotchkowski, who works for me, who's also the mayor. And yes, it's definitely a privilege to be in Washington, but it's been a very, very difficult time where people are fighting each other. It seems like here, and Bonnie, the work that you did for people who are so much in need. One thing I can really say that I'm so happy about is that we were able to provide some support. We'll continue to do that at the federal level as much as we can to support the work that you do on the ground right here. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So we'll have questions and answers, but I would like to recognize the village board and village staff of Morton Grove. So all the trustees and staff who are here, please stand up and get a round of applause. Do we have any trustees from Niles here today? Maybe not. Okay, so I would, my colleague from Niles Chamber of Commerce, Tracy. Person right in the back, right hand man. We have Hamid and Azar from our New Dakota Foundation here in Morton Grove. If you've not been to their museum or their event, come on, Hamid, stand up. I'm not sure who's on. There and the elected officials. Park District, I see a couple. I see Jeff Waite. I see a commissioner over there from Park District. Why don't you guys stand up? And we also thank the Morton Grove Library. I'm not sure where Pam is. She might, oh, Pam's in the back. Our executive director and member of the Chamber of Commerce Board. And we have a few Chamber of Commerce officers from Morton Grove. So I see Deb, I see Rich. Jim, where are you? Why don't you guys stand up? I'm kidding. So we thank you all, and we got a Pam coming down with a question. Oh, there's members of the library board here? Yes, please stand up. Please, oh, my friend fell out right behind Thank the library for hosting this wonderful event with us and in the beautiful Baxter room that this board has worked so hard and directors worked so hard to make nice and upgraded. So we thank the Morton Grove Public Library for all they do for the community, of course. Now, is anybody else I forgot? Everybody else, thank you for coming. But we're going to go to questions and answers. So best way is everybody raises their hand, and just pick out an elected official to talk to, and I'm sure they'll answer the question. So who's got a question? Oh, come on. So it's got to be somebody. Okay, Samina, and then we'll go to Ginny.
I have a question, and I don't know who can answer this, maybe Ron, you can answer this, but I was reading about the possibility of PACE, CTA, and Metro creating a day pass for commuters. Does that seem like it's a reality soon?
Yes. The answer to your question is yes. So first, let me say that, like I mentioned, every major public transit agency is facing a massive fiscal cliff in the nation. And you know, we're using this opportunity. I believe it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to really dig deep and reimagine what public transit should look like, and not just fill a hole. So the technical gap of the fiscal cliff is $730 million. If you talk to experts about what public transit should look like, not just next year or the 5 years down the road, but 2050, we're talking about up to $1.5 billion investment that we're looking at making. So there's a gap even there, right? Do we just plug the hole, or do we actually plan for the future? That being said, we have to start the conversation with the type of service that we want to see, right? We want to make sure that our service is accessible, affordable, livable, reliable, safe, right? All of these different factors. And so one of those proposals, there's several proposals to make service better, but one of them is, you know, in 1983, these four different agencies were created, and it's led to some good things, but it's also led to having 4 different agencies manage a lot of different things. And so there's discussion about not only a number of things, but there's discussion about merging them all into one agency. That's a whole conversation that's happening. But the second part of that is, okay, if we don't get there, what can we do to streamline the process? And one of those items is making it so that there's one pass for all three agencies, so that if you're someone that takes the Metro to the CTA or takes the PACE to the Metro to the CTA, you only have to deal with one pass. So this is a message that I sent and the Illinois General Assembly sent the agencies, and they are actually responding. They're voluntarily looking at creating a one-day pass that is usable on all three different agencies. And so I think they're going to be rolling that out in the next month or two.
I didn't want to miss this opportunity to introduce our incoming village administrator. This is Chuck Meyer. Some of you may know him from the village of Lincolnwood.
All right, who else has questions? None of it. Oh, the donuts, I was told it was a question, there are no calories in them? No, so I don't so deeply all that is. I see a hand. Jim Shabanian.
More of a comment than a question. For years and years and years, the worst experiences for working for District 219 was the first snow when kids couldn't cross the bridge over the Edens, and kids who lived in the Culver District 71 couldn't walk. They were literally walking on Oakton Street because of the snow. And it seems like a little thing, so people didn't think, oh, this is a big problem. But it was a huge thing, and Ralph Sawinski got this thing done. I mean, it was all those jurisdictions, you know, each one pointing fingers at the other, and he stuck with it, and now we have safe passageway on Oakton Street. So, perfect example of serving.
Are there any other questions? Well, I'm going to ask my photographer to come down, and Tracy, would be great to have a picture with all of our elected officials. So I'd ask you maybe just to kind of line up like right behind it. Jan, would you join us in the center? We'd love to have you. No, right here. Be an easier shot. We'll have them behind us. You want to go up? All right, Tracy. Where's my photographer? Where do you want everybody? All right, take 10 pounds off, guys, on the camera, please. Thank
No, she'll be working with them. It's July 1st. So the rest of them are there. Okay. So that's going to go worst case.